So I saw a show the other night, which I'll get into in a second, and it got me thinking. When we as Americans or even modern first world people, Israelis, this is a really good example as well. The October 7 event, I think it was 7th. When we hear about or read about or remember or use history for battle history, this is about battle history. When we think about battle history, we think of it the way we've been taught or shown on television, in which we know what each side was, the numbers of each side, the victors, who was going to win, who's going to lose, some of the things that may have even happened that turned the tide of the battle. We hear things like this, the Revolutionary War. So we know we know all the numbers, we know all the metrics, we know the players, we know the game. The Civil War, we know the players, we know the games, so the numbers, we know how the movie ends. This is how we go about history, and when we think about battle, we think about the history of battle, because that's how we've been taught. So the show I was watching was Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which is on YouTube for free from somebody. It was free low resolution, then I found one at higher resolution for free, which is bizarre that YouTube would even allow that. In any case, it was pretty good. I tried to fast forward through some of it, but you miss some things that are kind of important if you do that. But long story short, it was about a little small village of apes in the future. And these apes were smart, but they had lost, they were independent. They didn't have communications among each other's groups or each other's clans or each other's tribes. It was broken. The events of the time, events of the history, they had no history. They didn't know how to read. They didn't know there was such a thing as books. But the most important thing is the prince of the clan. You show him, it shows him as a teenager, really kind of unsure about himself. And, the biggest, baddest soldier in the clan, says something to him, to identify, they have a conversation. So you find out who the biggest, strongest guy in the clan is. And then you got this young teenage prince. Fast forward a little while, the prince is out roaming around at night, and he comes across 3 or 4 dead apes that he's never seen before. And they're wearing these weird masks that he's never seen before, which is really odd. He doesn't have any history of the outside world, really. And then it shows that toughest soldier of his clan limp up to him, crawl up to the prince, and says, "There's more of them." And then he dies, and he's got a big knife in his back. So a few things from that. And the next thing that happens is the teenager's like, WTF, like what WTF? That's his main thing. Then he looks off down the trail, and there's a half a dozen or more horses. He didn't know how many, but there's a gaggle of horses, a herd of horses, right, coming at him with torches. And so he hides. And when they ride up and they see all these dead bodies, and they're like, "What's going on? Why are our soldiers killed?" And there's like, "Oh, this one guy took down 4 of them," right? And he's like, "Well, let's head to their village and finish them off." So this force of enemy rides off. And the teenager's like, "What in the world is going on?" He had no idea. This was, just a few minutes ago. This was just a teenager, And now he's in a fight for his life, for his village, for his entire universe. But that's how history is. History is not knowing which side is which, the numbers on each side, who's going to win in advance. Some of Washington wrapped the wagons with rags so they wouldn't make noise. Yeah, you get all the highlights. But in reality, This is, guys, a 5-minute video. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Sorry. But in reality, what I saw on that show is what history is. It's not Sherman just happened to have X amount of troops to defeat the X amount of Germans or anybody else. You have the troops that you have. You know, Santa Anna just happens to have the troops that he has when he goes up against, you know, the Alamo. I mean, it's not like he counted how many people were in the Alamo and, oh, Davy Crockett, better add a couple of that. No, he just happened to have what he had, and they win over every smaller group they come across, typically. They just roll right over them because of their numbers. But the people they roll over, they are us. They are minding their own business. They are Israelis on October 7th. They are minding their own business, and then boom, they are attacked by an unknown amount, undetermined number of enemy forces. Now, that enemy forces probably wasn't calculated to the man to figure out how we could have victory. They just sent as many as they could, but that hardly matters to the individual, right? To that teenager. 2 or 3 soldiers would have been more than enough to kill him. To the professional soldier of his clan, yeah, he took down 4 of them. Okay, but that's not how you win a war. That's not even how you win a battle. The professional shooters amongst us could probably take down multiple people before being defeated ourselves. But unless you're operating as a group, it doesn't matter. It's just, oh, okay, we'll put that on your tombstone that you took down 4, 5, 6, 11 before what? Before the 17th, 18th, 20th guy killed you? Okay, you're still dead, and the rest of the group, unless they're ass kickers as well, are going to be defeated. So the history as we know it is not the way that it plays out. It plays out from an individual who's minding his own business, and in a matter of seconds, he is put upon by a very large, overwhelming force of men, and that individual is defeated. And I don't care who it is. That individual is not Rambo, right? Rambo may have, you know, if he may win on a one-on-one fight. He may win one-on-one 10, 15 times in a row, and that might make sense in some level. I could probably defeat a woman in hand-to-hand combat one-on-one 50 times in a row. I'd probably give out and have a heart attack before I was actually defeated. But 10-on-1, 15-on-1, you know, in a fist fight or a weapon fight, a knife fight, for instance, you know, knife, you got no chance against multiple attackers. Once weapons are involved, that changes things, that equalizes things. And now you're back to these one-on-one ratios. It's, you know, the better the weaponry, the less your skill set gives you a disparity between you and the enemy. A karate guy, I asked an MMA guy once how many fights with regular people he would win in a row. And he's like, I don't know. And then I got a number about 2 weeks later, just 50. All right, just throwing a number out there. But that's how history is. It's not, you know who's coming, you know how many they are, you don't know who wins, and you don't survive. If you're in a group that can move, shoot, and communicate, and that group has the firepower or the numbers to sustain a battle with another group of multiple people, could it be 3, could it be 4, right? Do you have the weaponry, the skill sets? Do you have the equipment edge? I mean, maybe you can stretch out there when you got 4 gang members with AK pistols without sights? Do you have dot scopes on your pistol where you can take them down at 50 yards where they're just shooting everything in sight? Maybe. But they can get lucky. So, and it's just a matter of time. Maybe you take down 4 this time because the range was sufficient for them to shoot at you and miss every time. But in close quarters, you can't count on that. So, but that's how, unfortunately, the Israelis think that way. We all think that way. We've probably been trained that way with our history lessons, what we see on TV. We think that somehow a lone wolf is going to handle multiple attackers. And that is not a recipe for success. It doesn't matter who the attackers are. It doesn't matter your skill sets. I mean, you could be anybody with the best equipment. I mean, the very cutting edge stuff. If you are vulnerable to multiple attackers, the problem is multiple attackers, they don't know what they're getting to either. They're just confident that there's a group of them. Hey, there's 10 of us, there's 15 of us. So we keep defeating, place after place like a motorcycle gang. A motorcycle gang is confident, not because they just think that every place they go to, they're up against 2 or 3 people at the most. One brave guy and a couple of wingmen against an entire motorcycle club. That ain't a recipe for success right there. So, but that's what you're up against, and if you're gonna solve that immortal recipe, which that's the way it always happens. It always happens that there's a large group attacking smaller groups. It doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes a large group attacks a group that turns out to be a whole lot larger, and they get their ass handed to them. And then there's a rare standoff where you're the Alamo and you take a lot of them with you, but you still defeated. Oh, okay, that sounds romantic, but that's not a recipe for success. So you're going to be attacked by larger groups, and inevitably you need a larger group in order to sustain that attack and to defeat that attack. You may not have to be a 1-to-1 ratio, but you can't be one guy who can take on 4 guys, one guy that can take on 6 guys, one guy that can take on 8 guys, and there's 10 guys. You can't do that, right? You can't be that guy that can take on 8 people, but no one else in your village, no one else in your family, no one else in your neighborhood can take on 1 or 2, right? That's not going to work. You can't be the guy that takes on 8 people and the rest of your clan is unarmed and helpless. They have a mindset that they can't get to their guns in time. Their guns aren't good enough, and they're not good enough to make any effectual change in attacks. Attacks happens in groups that are larger than yours, without getting into specifics. Because it's just you. Wherever you go, that's where you are. That's Buckaroo Banzai, right there. Well, just remember, wherever you go, that's who you are. Or that's where you are. Anyway. That's the mentality that we're fighting. When we see it on the movies, it's one guy gets attacked by 2 or 3 guys, and then another 1 or 2 guys, and 2 or 3 guys. They never hit him in a group of large. I mean, the Indians. Everybody, when the Indians attack, they don't know how many people are in a whatever. They might recon it and know before the attack. They may even decide not to attack based upon it. But you don't gather up your troops based on enemy intel. Like, oh, there's 10 of them, we'll take 10 too. No, you're going to take every guy you can. And when you get to that point, you might recon it and be like, okay, I didn't know there was 100 or 200 soldiers over there. We're not going to engage. We're going to go around. We're going to withdraw. Okay, I get that. But you alone are never going to get that break. You alone out there raking the yard or at the movie theater or pumping gas is not going to dispel or discourage any of these groups of 2 or 3 people or more. You get Hamas, you get a group of terrorists operating in cells of 2 to 6, and you're going to have another feather in your cap, another arrow in your quiver that says, you're not going to pull it out and be like, hey, this arrow kicks ass. You're going to have to pull this arrow out and say, hey, this arrow has 5 other people I can fight with. So you're going to need to establish some numbers more than focusing just on yourself. You're going to have to do both, because getting other people involved that's not going to work. Everybody's too busy. They got their own lives, unless they think like you. In which case that might even be more difficult to get them involved, because they're probably even less worried about being attacked because they can kick ass, or they think they can. So, in fact, that brings me to another point. I won't get into it here. But, the motorcycle gangs are kind of like the modern militias. They are, they don't have any real purpose other than to be troublesome. Deal drugs, deal guns, have a good time, drink, fight, just goofing off, having a good time, riding motorcycles. I mean, it's a lifestyle of just debauchery. Hey, sign me up. Excuse me. But they are a force, and we are inundated with information that delusions of grandeur, I should say, not information, delusions of grandeur that an individual can overcome even small numbers of people. I'm not being pessimistic here. 2 guys, 3 guys come in my house, that's they're going to regret it big time. But I mean, you get shot in the kneecap and you're limping for the rest of your life. That's not a recipe for success. Setting up other things is like, in many ways, like pig hunting. Pig hunting isn't really effective. You're out there one-on-one shooting a pig. Poison might kill 1,000 pigs. Well, that's not very much fun, is it? Well, okay. But, golf. Get a drone to pick up the ball and drop it in the hole, and you can do it from your phone. You don't even have to go to the golf range. That's not golf. That's not the sport of golf. That's not getting a drone to kill every pig that comes on your property, and you're not, without even waking you up, and you just sleep all through it. You just wake up to a farm full of dead pigs in the morning. That's not the sport of pig hunting. But that's the way we're trained. We're trained on the sport of pig hunting. We're trained on the sport of golf. We're trained on the sport of shooting and hunting. And the battles is a lot like a sport as well. We are trained on these fair fights. And movies are a good example of bad thinking. In the movies, it's fiction movies, the good guys and bad guys are balanced to where we can draw, that it makes it, oh no, who's going to win? But in reality, this is my point in my video, it's not like that. In the movies, you make a movie that's realistic, and the cavalry comes in with about 100 guys, because that's just how they roll, and they come across a village of about 20, maybe 24 villagers, Indians, about 25 people. 12 are hard pipe swinging Apache. Okay, well, they're killed in a matter of seconds. And the village is razed or burned or just completely eliminated, genocided. Yeah, that's how groups work. That's how we operate. That's how they all operate. And the movie's over, and you're like, wait a minute, this movie's been going on for like 4 minutes. Right, and it's done. It's done. We're done here. It's not, oh, well, Josie Wells survived, and he was able to fight and take revenge upon all of his friends and everything else. In reality, that's not how it works. The movie is over in a matter of minutes, and you're going to save yourself along with a few of your buddies, or you're not going to save anybody, including yourself. So I'm not making this about, how important it is to have other people. It absolutely is. If you're not going to have other people, you need to start thinking about not having them when you need them. What kind of equipment what does that even look like? How much body armor does that look like? How much armored car does that look like? How much thermal drone does that look like? How much booby trap does that look like? You're going to have to bring on a whole another level of warfare if you're going to eliminate one of the most important aspects of a battle, and that's numbers. And we're not trained to think like that at all. We're trained the opposite of that. We're trained to think that you don't need any numbers. Rambo doesn't need numbers. Who else? Josie Wells, he don't need no numbers. He just needs more pistols, right? He got like a couple of Colt Walkers, and that's all he needs. No, he needs a couple of guys named Colt and Walker is what he needs. But another thing, 2 people, it's impossible for many times for one person to even accomplish many things. You can't move. Sometimes you can't move a couch by yourself, but 2 people can move it relatively easy. Battles are very much the same philosophy. There's some things but one person just cannot do. Starting with protecting yourself while you sleep. That takes 2 people. One to sleep, one to watch. So you can't even sleep safely without multiple people. So you got real problems if you don't have other people lined up to be on your side. if there's trouble. And most of us don't. In a civilian life, we don't. We get attacked. Hamas attacks, and we don't have time to, to squad up. It's just you versus hopefully only 2 or 3 people, and but there's no guarantee that you're only going to be up against 2 or 3. In the movies, yes, that's what they do because they want to give you a chance for the movie to last 2 more hours. But in reality, the rules are not there. You may be up against 10 or 15 guys, just like the Kingdom of Planet of the Apes. That little teenager is out there with a little knife up against an entire squad of seasoned, trained, full-grown, fully armed soldiers. And he doesn't know what's going on. He has no clue. He is ambushed by a force of superior numbers with superior firepower. And again, that recipe is not one of success. So you're gonna need to start thinking along the lines of how I get other people involved, and what am I going to do in the meantime to bolster how one man goes about handling groups of opposition. What does that mean? Does that mean drones? Does that mean different weaponry? Does that mean maybe weapons you probably didn't even think about? Ultra silenced weapons where you can pull the trigger and take out one of a dozen guys, and the other 11 guys don't immediately train their rifles on that supersonic crack from a 5.56, or don't immediately start hunting you. Someone just falls in the forest. What happened? Are you okay? And you realize they're dead. You don't even know where it came from. You don't know where it came from. Right? It's not like there's other aspects than just saving your hearing protection or disguising your position. When you fire off a supersonic shot, or a shot that other people can hear, you've disclosed the fact that you even exist. And if it's you against a foreign superior numerical force, the fact that you exist is your death, right? The fact that you don't exist, you're not actually out there, there's your chance. A ghillie suit is a good example. A single sniper in a ghillie suit is a pretty dangerous person. But how many times do you see that in the movies where every guy in the squad is all ghillie suited up? You never see that because the movies don't operate that way. But one guy may have to up his game in camouflage. Boring. May have to up his game into low-powered, ultra-silent weapons. Boring. Right? Boring. Okay. Well, you may have to change your mindset on how battles happen. From the, let's go pig hunting, that's fun, yay. No, let's find a way to kill pigs without having to be there. Let's find a way to kill pigs where the pigs can't kill us right back. How do I kill 100 pigs by myself? Because that's where we're at. We're by ourselves until you're not. And there's always an overwhelming force. Those are the forces that attack. 2 or 3 guys don't attack villages. They attack because in numbers, they have confidence and they have successes. And those successes, you're not the last village they attack. Odds are you're going to be in that first village that got completely wiped out. Second village that completely got wiped out. Third village that completely got wiped out. Our history goes way back 1,000 years of Indian villages and hunting buffalo. Yeah, well, you're extinct. Now you're extinct for a multitude of reasons. But the larger enemy force isn't going to, if they got 100 guys coming up against 20 Indians, they're not going to hold 80 of them back. They're going to run over you like you're not even there. So, unless you've got something else up your sleeve. So, we're going to need to start putting something else up our sleeve. And until we can get more guys. You can't count on more guys. Even when you have more guys, you can't count on them. But you need to start thinking along that line. How do you fight 100 people? Start there. If you think you can take on 50 people or 100 people, good. Start thinking like that. Thinking like, how do I take on 2 guys, 2 home intruders or 3 home intruders? What happens when there are 4 gang members that get all 4 doors on that Honda Civic open up? and 4 gangsters get out of the car. How do you fight that? So that's what I'm talking about. These battles happen inevitably with far superior numbers against individuals or groups that are so amazingly outnumbered. It is there's no way to survive it. So you're gonna have to come up with a way to survive the unsurvivable. And that's going to be with numbers or equipment, or you're just not, or you're just done. You're just done. That's all. Sorry it lasted so long. It's 25 minutes of that. But and the bikers have a pretty good, interesting idea. I mean, there's biker gangs that come up against bigger biker gangs, right? But you know, that's just the nature of it. That bigger biker gang that beat up the smaller biker gang is going to go to a bar and beat you up too. Right? So it's not like all of a sudden the big biker gang won't mess with the single guy at the bar. He's messing with him also. So it's not like in the movies. So that's where we are. And that's something we don't think about. We don't think along these lines. It's boring. It's not very romantic. But it's the story of you unless you solve it. Unless you solve the superior number problem with more of you or more equipment that's designed to handle groups far exceeding your number of group.